All right. So last bit of pieces for the leadership chapter. We're going to talk about abusive leadership, leader humility. I was going to say humble leadership, as well as women in leadership. So these three topics are not theories per se, but they are auxiliary ways of looking at leadership. So a vast majority of the leadership literature has looked at what a good leader is, how we can be effective, how we can motivate our employees, how we can provide them with visions and goals and get them excited. But that's not every person, every manager, every leader. There's also indeed leaders that are on the other side of that. And the current literature calls that abusive leadership. And this is defined as sustained, so it has to be ongoing, right? So sustained display of hostile, both verbal and non-verbal behaviors towards employees. So non-verbal might be something like silent treatment, right? It's not verbal, it's not being rude, which is verbal behaviors that are abusive, but you can also move away with your body from a person. You might close the door, you might look down at your screen. Those are non-verbal behaviors that are signaling to employees that they are not respected or valued. So all of those things included make up for a supervisor or manager that is considered to be abusive. So they might do things like remind you of past mistakes or bring up things that are not necessarily relevant now, but when things didn't go well for you, one situation, they keep bringing that up. They're rude, they're lying, they break promises, they ignore you. So what we typically see happening is people who report to bosses like that tend to leave, obviously. We don't want to put up with things that are mentally, emotionally draining and hurtful to us. So those managers tend to have higher levels of turnover. And these managers, these leaders, if you want to call them that even, do more of these dark side abusive behaviors if they perceive your values, not your, but the employees' values to be different from their own. So we have value divergence, meaning not aligned values, and those employees tend to be typically more targeted. On the very opposite spectrum of that is leader humility, obviously. So a humble leader or a leader that shows humility. They are just themselves. They don't take themselves too seriously. They don't have a huge ego. They know they have shortcomings. They're not trying to come off as somebody all-knowing, which is very different from traditional leadership literature when we look at the leader as the person to save us and fix all the problems with the company. So leader humility is more of a soft approach. They can appreciate other people's strengths. They want to collaborate. They are open to feedback and wanting to improve and just have a low-key type of leadership personality. And of course, leaders like these tend to have a better climate in the groups. People like being around them, and they do more of a shared leadership approach where they share that leadership with others and allow them to flourish as well. So definitely a leadership style that attract more employees. And then finally, women in leadership. There's been a lot of research actually on whether or not we have gender or sex differences in leadership. And a lot of it is stereotypes. Some of them tend to be correct, but a lot of it is just our projection on what we think men and women are, or however we define them today, right? So, for instance, we might think that women or females are more relationship oriented, and men are more task oriented, and we just do not find support for that in the research for the different leaders. That is not true at all. There is some research suggesting that women tend to be more democratic and listen to other people more in meetings and take other people's opinion and input into advice for decisions, and more than men do. So there are some research that is accurate and others that's not. We do know that the pipeline of women into leadership is not really there yet. We have plenty of women graduating with college degrees, bachelor's, master's, and PhDs, more than men do. They are basically half of the workforce, and yet those really high level positions tend to be, for a vast majority of those roles, tend to be occupied by men. So that's something for us to change, right? We can all go out there and get at those high level jobs. So that's it for leadership, and I'll see you for the next topic. Take care. Bye.